Welcome back to another episode, another installment, if you will, of the Career Podcasters. Here as always, Matt.
Yes, back again, Alex. What's been going on, man?
Tonight I'm going to be a little selfish. I think I'm going to be a little selfish.
Okay.
I think this is going to be Matt's therapy time on a mic.
I like that.
So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. That's what's been happening. I've been having some wild thoughts, as our description says. I've been having some wild thoughts lately, influenced by some wild thinkers. And I don't know, I just like get in these states, right, where I start thinking about existence a lot. Obviously, we did our first episode on death. I'm not going to talk about death tonight at all.
Sure.
That's not what's been on my mind. That's on my mind frequently.
Yeah.
But
do you know what's funny? This is like a very side piece, but most people, if they knew us personally, they would go, Matt's probably the funny one and Alex is the more serious one. But whenever I'm talking, it's a funny episode. And whenever you talk, it's a serious ass one.
because I got a lot of shit on my mind, man.
And I think that's great.
I do like to poke fun at it.
You treat it with humor, of course.
Sometimes, yeah. And I would say situationally, yeah, I like being the funny guy. But like when I'm talking, there's something about like the way my verbiage comes out that I like it to be a little more
No, it's
like
just, I just think it's funny because people would probably take that off first rip.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where,
especially
opposite.
those that know us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I will also say, if I'm acting any slow or droggy, I just got vaccinated today.
Woo, baby!
I got the first shot of Pfizer, so
The Doombreaker.
yeah, the doom break. For
That shit
those
was
who
great.
know. But yeah, so if I'm out of it at all, I'll be chugging water and shit. I feel pretty good, just headaches and nothing crazy. So
Nice.
heads up. For those of you who don't think you should get vaccinated, go
Get
do
vaccinated.
it. I have an
Do the
autoimmune
CVS, man.
disease. Yeah, I have an autoimmune disease. Like, it's risky for me to even get vaccinated. If I got it, you should get it. So, fucking do it. But actually, maybe don't. I don't know. Do whatever you want. Anyway, my sidebar. Go ahead.
Welcome back to another episode of the Career Podcasters.
1, 2, 3, go!
So basically, what I've been thinking lately, right, is that we have this gift of observing life, right, from the human conscious, from the human perception.
I'm listening.
Yeah. Basically, sometimes when I analyze what life has become, not just in the 21st century, I mean, just how humans have evolved. I mean, over the last like 200, 300 years have been the most significant in terms of like drastic changes in recent times, considering all of history.
It's exponential, so of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in more recent times, it has been.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, I agree. The exponential growth that we've seen in recent times has been...
we've revved up.
And we can observe that. And sometimes I just sit there and think, like, are we doing this right? Right? So like I'm an inherently lazy person. This is what I'm saying. Like, it's going to be an analyzation of myself. Everything I'm about to say on this episode is coming from my perception. Probably very little I'm going to consider outside perceptions because because these are thoughts that I have about myself and my place in the world. I think that's what I've been thinking about a lot lately is myself and in this journey through what we know as existence, what we were born into, and what it means, maybe what it doesn't mean. Maybe it doesn't mean anything. I'm not sure about that. But I've been thinking a lot lately about what we're doing. Like a lot of this, that sounds like a crazy statement, but just think about it. I just
want to say, I'll be laughing a lot at these. It's not because I think it's funny.
It is funny.
No, it's just stuff that I don't think about at all.
Really?
So, well, we'll find out, I guess. But
okay.
It's just funny to me learning how someone else's brain works. You're like, wow, my brain would never do that. That's funny. That's kind of why I chuckle.
No,
Go
and
ahead.
that's lit. Please continue chuckling. I also like, because I know my brain is a little abnormal. Like, I do know that. Like,
everyone's is. It's
everyone's
supposed
is.
to be unique.
But to an extent in today's society where it's like sometimes I feel like a piece of shit, right? Sometimes I feel like a complete piece of shit of a human being because I know I'm naturally lazy, and it's okay. I get there. I do things to combat it sometimes.
First thing.
Yeah.
Why are you naturally lazy? How do you know that? Why do you think that?
I've been told that.
So
I could get to what the definition of laziness is, but like for me, right, like I don't want to be the type of person grinding, making 2 jobs like as my side hustle to fuel what I want to love to do, like to fuel something like my writing, right? I wouldn't. and I know you have to do that and it's productive to do that. I'm not saying that like I want to be a jobless bum who just like waits for a big break or anything like that, because there's plenty of people like
But
that.
yeah, you do.
But yes, I do. But yes, I do.
We all do a little bit.
A little bit. And I've always kind of been that way. Like with school, I know I was inherently lazy. Like I saw it through my childhood too. Like I inherently lazy in that system.
Sure.
And with that, we could go in about that. But I'm talking about what I was born into and what the best way to, utilize this shit is. And I do wonder if, because of the sentence that I just said, if like I'm like tricked into like thinking that this is what I need to do, go to school, pursue a job, make sure you're really secure, devote yourself to that job, work hard, be a hard worker, work, grind, success, all that stuff, what generally is defined as success. I won't go into that. Success is, I guess, perceptive. But
So I guess what you're saying more so is you believe you are naturally lazy when speaking of these stereotypical means of success / hard work.
yes.
Okay. I want to start just by saying I think it's not a great way to define yourself. I wouldn't say that's actually accurate at all. I don't think you're very lazy.
Okay.
Just because you were told that, or because when you went to school you were told that when you were a kid, doesn't mean who you are now and has no influence on like how you're productive now, because we don't go to school anymore.
Yeah.
So I just think generally speaking, you should maybe try to drop that stigma, because I wouldn't say that's accurate. But
I
go ahead.
appreciate that. And I
know
will,
what you mean,
I will
though.
work towards
I know what
that.
you mean.
And I appreciate hearing that. But also I think a step further is sometimes I feel like a piece of shit because I know I'm not applying right. So maybe I'm not lazy in the general sense, but could it be considered true laziness if like I know it's lazy for me, if I know certain actions that I'm doing, even if I'm getting a certain amount of shit done that like maybe I'm just it's ingrained in me to like take care of certain things and necessities and work towards goals and not let goals slip as well. But like I know that I'm not using my days and maybe my capabilities, maybe some realized, maybe some unrealized, to their fullest, extent.
That sounds like a hard worker to me. Because you do all these things every day and you want to do more, is what you're telling me. It's the opposite. Since what? When did you start working at In-N-Out?
16.
Right? So since then, you've always had a job, a well-paying job. You've always worked.
17.
Sure. And always gone to school, graduated college in 4 years. And you're like, I'm not getting the most out of my day. Sounds like someone who does a lot by the standard means and wants to do more. But now, explain to me what you mean, though.
So the standard means depress me sometimes. And I use depress as a verb, not as a noun, not as depression, not as an adjective to describe it. Like as a verb, the system depresses me in certain ways. I actually got that terminology from a favorite author of mine. I'm going to quote him a couple times coming up here on this kind of rant therapy conversation that I've convinced you to have with me tonight. Thank you, friend. Just had a lot on. I've been thinking about this shit a lot. And he basically has this book called Factotum, Charles Bukowski, for those who got it off of Factotum, good shit. Where he describes this guy, right, who's just kind of drifting around job to job. And it's an interesting book. It's a slow read because it's just a guy describing his days, like, and his feelings towards these jobs, these meaningless, dead end, sometimes career oriented, sometimes not, like people make careers out of it. Also, it takes place in, a couple decades ago. He basically described that the job he was working depressed him. Like they demean him and they depress him, right? The narrator of the stories, reactions to these jobs. And it's like a verb, right? So like, you can feel something sucking the life out of you, almost like the energy, right?
Would you relate it to like a drug that is a depressant? You know what I mean? Like drugs that literally
I'd be hesitant to. I would be hesitant to relate it to that. Okay. Because yes, in a way, I think drug depressants maybe slow down the mind more, and that's why it's like it's a depressive.
Not always.
Maybe not always.
I guess they're all different, but I think I get what you're saying. The verb depressing, like
to depress me. Yes.
Yeah.
These things depress me, and I got that from my author. And book Factotum, I think, like I related a lot to the narrator and how he feels when he's working these different jobs. Just what's the point? What's the point? What's the point? Like, what am I doing? Like, because I'm over analytical. It's crazy. I do suffer from a certain degree of what I think some would call analysis paralysis, but like
I've never heard that. That's kind of cool.
it's a philosophy term. It's just like where you think about shit too much, almost to the point of inaction. Like you're thinking about what's the point so far ahead, where you're just like it's meaningless because you can't get to a point.
Almost all of philosophy to me, but
It is, and that's why it's the butt end of a lot of jokes. But like, if I had like a community back in ancient Rome, those would be my guys. If I had my same personality that I have now, I wouldn't be the dudes building the fucking Colosseums or fighting in the Colosseums or going off and inventing shit and doing mathematics. Although a lot of the philosophers were also doing that, but that probably wouldn't be me. I would just be like, yeah, what is the purpose of, because like sometimes, right, you, like when I know this, you're, like you said, your brain doesn't work this way. You're calculated, right? You're like, every action I take has a reaction and it makes sense for the most part, or no?
I guess. I don't know. I don't really think that deeply into it. I don't really think about
Yeah, I do. I don't know
why we're here or stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I liken it to the fact that I don't want to sound like mean by saying this, but that I just have other things to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't have time to sit around and go, why am I here? What am I doing? Like, is it meaningful? Not saying those things aren't important.
Yeah.
But just like, I have goals in my mind that I'm working to. And it's like, I know why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't go that deep. And I get it. Like, existentialism and stuff like that is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
And when I'm enjoying myself, it's stuff I like to read about and learn about. But it's not something I spend personal time thinking on.
Okay.
I guess that's just.
I can't. Yeah, but like, and
I don't
that's
know.
the thing. I feel like a lot of people are probably that way. A lot of people aren't. A lot of people are drawn to philosophy. I'm sure for different reasons too.
Yeah. I will say it's a bit of a. You have to have some free time, to be honest.
Well, when I was a kid, I had these thoughts on my own. Some of the thoughts that, like, I'm not saying all of them. I've definitely been introduced to stuff. I wasn't your word. I wasn't a savant of philosophy at a fucking young age.
No, but you thought about this as a kid, which is reasonable. But I guess what I'm saying is, as a kid, you have free time.
Yes.
When you become an adult and you're working all the time and you're just trying to make ends meet, I know, because you still have time to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, your brain isn't occupied by other things, which is fine. This is not something I'm saying your brain is uselessly occupied on.
Yeah.
But I'm just telling you that's why. Like, I don't feel that way because, I don't know, when I'm at work, my brain is occupied the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I get off and then it's like, okay, I got to do this today. I got to do this today. I got to do this today.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time I get to the end of the day, I want to do nothing but not think. I just want to turn it off, you know?
Okay.
Which maybe is a reason for the use of drugs and alcohol, but
No, see, like that's I want to keep thinking.
Uh-huh.
So maybe you're right.
it's just different approaches is all I'm saying.
Yeah, because I don't have as much time as I did when I was a kid, obviously, to be thinking about it all the time. But sometimes even during tasks that I'm doing, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes the tasks themselves, it pulls me out, and it's just like I start I get into that analysis paralysis mode where I'm just like, what am I doing this for? This is for this, and is that really all that great? And this and that, it takes me on a loophole.
So I guess maybe you want to look for more meaningful work. Is that kind of what you're saying?
I suppose so, but I don't know what that is because I have a
question.
Because I have a lot of outlets too. But and here's the thing. Here's what I'm getting at. This is maybe why I'm an inherently lazy person, because even things that I like and I think would be meaningful work, the work that goes along with doing that, I'm always just like, ugh! Like it. I know how this sounds from my perception.
Go ahead.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna come. Everything's from just my perception.
This is what you live, of course. No one can tell you it's not true or it's wrong.
It makes me kind of a piece of shit where I'm just like, there should be easier ways to do things. A lot of the meaningful work even that I see, there's just so many hurdles, and they're like, are you qualified here, and here? Like, I just kind of like, let me read you a quote. Quote that I think illustrates perfectly how my brain works. It's another Bukowski quote. Like I said, I've been reading some wild things, and I've got another one, The Old Man in the Sea, that I want to talk about.
Let's do it.
But this is what he says, and I think it describes me pretty well.
Okay.
Often the best parts of life were when you weren't doing anything at all, just mulling it over, chewing on it. I mean, say that you figure that everything is senseless. Then it can't be quite senseless because you are aware that it is senseless, and your awareness of senselessness almost gives it sense. You know what I mean? An optimistic pessimism.
You're going to have to read that back. Okay, go to the senses part or whatever.
Okay. Basically what he's saying.
I just need the second half. Can I read it actually? I'm a reader, not a listener.
Yes.
So I'll read it again just as I go along. Often the best parts of life were when you weren't doing anything at all, just mulling it over, chewing on it. Get that part. I mean, say that you figure that everything is senseless. Then it can't be quite senseless because you are aware that it is senseless. So it can't be senseless because you know everything's senseless.
Because you can analyze it.
And
We
that's part
have
of it,
consciousness to be able to be like, I can think about this. My thoughts can build on one another.
Mm-hmm. So the rest of it is, and your awareness of senselessness almost gives it sense. This is not a word that's good for my dictation, but you know what I mean? An optimistic pessimism.
Optimistic pessimism, right? So the pessimism being
Is this
these thoughts building on one another are eventually going to lead to nihilism, being like, it's pointless, it's all meaningless, it's all pointless. But you're enjoying the fact that you can just sit there and contemplate your thought. Like being a human, we have thoughts that can build on one another. And my brain, the way it works, like the way I best describe my brain to people, and it may not be the most accurate description, but basically like when I have one thought, right, there's about 8 more avenues that open up from that one thought. And it's me really just kind of going through all of them. Like, and sometimes some of them don't lead anywhere. Sometimes some of the early ones will take me on a new tree where there's different thoughts to choose from to continue. And it just builds and builds and builds. And before I realize it, I haven't done 3 homework assignments or I haven't, dude, I had it happen in times in school where I'm taking a test and I start thinking this way and just like 45 minutes gone of an hour and a half test. And I'm just like, how much time went by? Like it's analysis paralysis. Like it's taken me out of it didn't always happen in times like that, but like it has pulled me out of it. I know this is sometimes even like, so maybe not as serious of a situation as like an exam, but like working the fries in and out. Like I'd be like, in my rhythm. And then like once I'd feel it, I'd lose track of what's going on with the business and be like, I'm in my one rhythm for what's happening right now, business wise. Now I got time to think about whatever I want to think about, which admittedly is mostly nonsense. Like I said, it's just this world of thoughts just constantly coming and going and sometimes leading somewhere, sometimes not.
Could you give me an example? Give me like a scenario. Doesn't have to be real or not. But
I got you.
Like a way this would start.
Yeah. So I'm at the fry station at In-N-Out, right?
Sure.
Notice the business. There's a small line at the front inside the restaurant and a big line in the drive-thru. I immediately calculate in my brain because like I'd worked there long enough where I'm like, okay, this many fries for like that many people.
The rhythm and flow.
Consistent, right? I've assessed what damage I need to take care of at the restaurant at that given time, right? So I drop all my baskets and I get in the flow. All of a sudden I'm like, man, this is a lot of potatoes. Like, I worked with those kids in India. It's kind of crazy. Like a lot of this food that like I see get wasted could probably be going elsewhere in the world. But then how would I do that? Who would I go to there? I guess I could go that route. That sounds like it's a lot of work and would be shitty. Maybe there's a way around some of those obstacles.
I think I get
maybe
the idea.
Not. I don't know. I think that maybe I can contact somebody that I know, but then like they don't even really work in food because school is also kind of a problem over there. But bringing it back to
Jesus,
dude,
sounds like torture.
It's nuts. I'm telling you, and that's what I'm saying. It's boring to hear out loud because often they don't go anywhere.
It's boring. It's just
it is for me too. It's just like I could see why it would be boring for someone else. Maybe it's not because maybe not a lot of people's brain work that way. But like the problem is even when I find things that I like, right? Like I like to write, but when I sit down and write, like focusing on a tightly subjugated piece that I want to complete and have focus on and stuff like that will just kind of spark all these thoughts. I'll get like 10 minutes of writing done. And then I'm like, I'm thinking so much. I've lost track. I need to recenter my brain. It is kind of miserable sometimes because it gets in the way of things that like I want to do. Like I even like, yes, it was bad for school. It was bad for certain systems and things like that, but it can be bad even for things that like I want to do. And it does in a weird sense make me lazy sometimes. I think that goes back to like the root of the laziness is like it happens. Like I'll notice it just go by and like I'm cognitive of the fact that this happens to me frequently. It's happened to me my whole life. It literally has never changed ever. My ability to retain focus on something, and yes, of course it's diagnosed, it's ADD, but I'm just talking about my specific version of it. I can't even focus on shit that I like. So often my mind runs to places like that quote where I have this like optimistic pessimism, right? Because so many of my thoughts don't lead anywhere. My brain just immediately is like, oh, life is kind of pointless then. Like, you know, like all of these thoughts expand so far. They just go so deep. It always ends at like, there really is no point like to any of that. Like,
so have you ever learned that lesson then? Has your brain has it ever stopped you early and told you, I know where this ends up? Because to me, this doesn't sound like laziness.
Yeah.
It sounds like a waste of time.
Yeah.
In a numbers analytical sense.
Yeah.
It's not laziness. You're doing a lot of work in your brain. It's just useless work.
Yeah.
It's work for nothing.
Always useless.
Well, because it's nothing without action, which is the same criticism of philosophy is it's all useless if there's no action. You can write a book about the perfect way to govern people and we could solve this, but if there's no action, it literally does not matter. Now, it's important to be a piece of the puzzle as well. There are the thinkers and then there's the doers, right?
And the hunger thing was an extreme one. Sometimes it's even more useless than even like world problems.
I believe it.
Sometimes it's just
an article of clothing and it's like, oh, that guy wears that. I've seen this guy wear that.
Man,
I wonder if that means they shop at the same place. Oh, maybe I could shop there.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
That's not bad. That's pretty good for someone whose brain doesn't work that way.
I've had those same thoughts, but now I know and I go, dude, fuck, it's pointless.
Yeah.
And I don't waste my time.
Yeah.
When I can waste my time, I do. Today, after I got my vaccine, I'm walking around the store. I'm thinking that shit.
Gotcha.
I'm walking around looking at people. I'm like, you need shampoo. I wonder why I need shampoo. Like,
yeah,
I'm just dicking around. I'm allowed to waste time right now.
Gotcha.
That's my goal at the moment is waste time, right? Because I had to wait the 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not laziness though. I would never say that's laziness.
I guess I got mistaken a lot for laziness when I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, that's because your goals were elsewhere. If you were doing the same thought process on things that you needed to get done, it wouldn't be useless.
Yeah.
When you have these thoughts, do you write them down ever? Okay.
Sometimes. But that's what I'm saying. Often, like even when I have like a really good one, right? Because not all these are bad. Some of them go like, some of them build on each other in a really cohesive way. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm onto something. So I have some pieces of writing on my laptop that like are started and kind of in length, but nowhere near getting done. Nowhere close to done.
Yeah. I don't know how you turn that corner.
Yeah.
It's really hard. It's kind of the most important part because it's all for nothing if there's no action, right?
Yeah.
You can sit
there's no
and
conclusion.
You can think and talk about it. I would say that's what kind of this is. This you talking on this platform is that same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, maybe I'll put together it into action essentially by posting it or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really tough. I wouldn't say those things are completely useless because they are important, but you have to realize they will become useless unless you do anything with them.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
if you think that's being lazy, the trick to not be lazy is to actually do something about the thoughts you have.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say the India one, for example.
Mm-hmm.
If then afterwards you go and you help start a school in India or whatever, then that's like a positive outcome from your thoughts, right? But it sounds like very rarely do you actually act on it.
Yeah.
Or maybe have the opportunity to act on it.
I get more at that. Very rarely do I act on it. It's a personal thing. I don't think that's where like me personally, I would be like, I'd be using that as an excuse if I were to say other reasons or the reason I'm not doing something like for me personally. Cause like I know that if it's maybe something like building a school in India. Yeah. In India, there's a couple obstacles right now that are a bit out of my control at this given moment, and I could take steps in my life to get there. But something like writing, like that's all me. I have the entire, and I know that I have the capability of honing in on that focal point of whatever piece of writing it is and concluding it and making a good conclusion. It's just like I just go too deep. And even when I notice it when I talk to people sometimes, man. There was this poor super nice woman that I met that I accidentally just talked her ear off for absolutely went on. Dude, Vinny got a whole glimpse of it. We're looking at houses, right?
Our roommate, Vinny, by the way.
Yeah. We're looking at houses, and she is the representative of the owner, and she's his daughter.
No.
And she's showing us the house, and she's like, oh, man, like it's it's great. Like, we're having a good conversation, taking this around the house. We're really invested in it. It comes out that I had worked for a brief time at the San Francisco Public Defender's Office.
Here we go.
And she's like, oh, I'm a public defender. She's like, so what's your plan with that? And I was like, because I told her I did the internship and I was like maybe looking at being an investigator and things like that. And decided to go on the whole spiel of my entire thought process about like, well, I was originally going to maybe do law school. And then I immediately start thinking it's like, oh, she works as a public defender. Maybe I'll know her one day in like the job field. So I'm like, but like the LSAT scores were really bad. And then I didn't want that to sound bad. So I was just like, oh, next like backup plan and stuff like that. So I was like, let me just keep going and like give you all
Just
like
dig
the
the hole
ideas that I had
deeper
just
and just
deeper and
fucking-
deeper and deeper. I probably talked for about like 4.5 minutes. And
It's not that bad.
in
Some
the
people
way
like
in
that.
the way I was talking, she reacted really nicely to it. She was like, "Wow, he's a man with a plan." Because like I just went through like every option that I was looking at right
see.
there.
You-
Like it was just
you
it
did
wasn't
the-
conversation. It was just words just coming out of my head.
You did the overshare.
Yeah,
That's the typical thing. I overshare sometimes too.
I do it
think a lot of people
often
do it a lot.
though. I think I do it more often because these thoughts, like one thought will just spark the next, and I don't consider how the other person's reacting to what I'm saying. I'm only considering how my thoughts are coming out of my own head and sounding to me.
Yeah, I guess that could be taken as a little selfish, I guess, by some listeners.
Yeah.
I actually don't mind that. I kind of like when people do that because I think I like listening more than talking sometimes.
Mm.
Or like prompting. Obviously like both. Like you'll see in the podcast, sometimes it's me doing this and sometimes it's Matt.
Sometimes it's pretty both equally.
Yeah, of course. It's interesting. I just think, okay, so the biggest thing here is why don't they turn to action? That's the missing link, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you ever do anything about it?
Yeah, pretty much. Like I'm wondering when I'm gonna find the thing that either sparks the action fully, completely.
No. There's nothing just randomly sparks the action. You
Because I
spark
have
the
so
action.
many. Yeah, because I have so many interests already. Like I have things that I'm truly vestedly interested in.
Okay. So why don't you?
Vestedly? I don't know.
Doesn't matter. Why don't you do it? So this is my thing. Right now it's a waste of time because you're not doing anything about it. If you were to do something about it, it's immediately not a waste of time.
Yeah.
Even if it's a small thing like looking for a piece of clothes. If you find the piece of clothing and then you buy it, no longer useless.
I see what you mean. So you're even saying like the minute thoughts that could have like some potential. If you just do something with it, then it's not a waste of your brain work.
There are some things where you should nip it in the butt right away.
Yeah.
Stupid stuff, of course, right? But those can be fun to think about, sure. But the ones that are like bigger issues that you actually think are important, you should actually act on it. Because then you won't have these same
but sometimes it happens the most with ones. So it does happen with minute things, but I guess the true
big rabbit holes are big problems.
They're big problems, and that's when I get the most. Those are the problems that depress me the most because it's just like I get depress again as a verb. Depress me the most because I just get like overly thoughtful about them. Like there are practical solutions that your brain would probably go to, but on the fly mine never go to when I'm thinking about it. Like mine always go to the like how am I thinking outside the box, and it's not intentfully thinking outside the box, but a lot of people in my life told me it's like, yeah, you approach things like you're thoughtful about it, you're really thoughtful, but it's like too outside the scope of what you're doing. And I can even sometimes see that with the pod and things like that. Like my ideas go outside the scope of what I'm doing.
You skip steps
all the time.
That's what you're doing.
And yeah, I think my brain is, I guess, constantly seeking.
You're
that
like,
and
we got to do
failing.
this, and we got to do this, and we got to do this. It's like, yo, we haven't even fucking started.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's fine, but you need to lay out the steps, right? Let's say your goal. Give me like one issue that's kind of one that comes up a lot. Just any of them. We could use the India one if you want. Let's say build a school in India. Do you want to do that?
Sure, we could do the environment. That one comes up frequently in my head.
Sure. So what is that? Just the end result is save the world, right? That's fine.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's fine. So end result is save the world. So you're here. Where do you start? What's the first step you do if you want to save the fucking world?
Take some individual steps to better yourself.
Yeah, sure. That doesn't mean anything. Tell me something concrete. Make goals. No, give me the goals.
Okay.
I think that's the thing is you don't think anything concrete at all. There needs to be a balance. You're all just saying like, we'll just fix this and do this. It's like, no, how? what are the steps?
My head is very abstract.
Yeah, you need to have something put in place. So what I would suggest to you is write out these things, and then you can read it back later and write in the concrete part next to it. So let's say save the environment. This is how I would take it, at least. Not saying this is the way to do it, but this is how I would take it. I wouldn't get that far is my thing. My goals would be more short-sighted, but maybe more practical. It would be, okay, I want to save the environment. I should educate myself. That's kind of what you're saying, better yourself.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to college and study environmental science. Step 1. After I graduate, I'm going to get a job at a lab that studies, I don't know, monocropping or GMOs or something, right? Whatever you find the most interest in, probably whatever opportunity comes. You work for a gas company and you could be working on renewable fuel, right? Whatever it is that interests you the most, making solar panels. A great example is me and you and our other friend Jack all very cared much about the environment in high school. And I think we all wanted to study it. You were kind of more environmental law. Jack wanted to build solar panel engineering, wind energy. And I was more on the business side of creating sustainable businesses and changing their practices. 3 different ways to go about it. All fair, all equally viable. It's actually, there's a ton of concrete options to do these things.
Yeah.
It's just picking one. I think you might just get lost in the options.
Yeah, and I think that's why I describe my thoughts the way that I do, because my thought is always, it's never like
It's never pinpointed.
No.
So
it's very rarely. It has been in my life before. It's not like I have never been able to sit down and do work of any sort.
Yeah.
I've been able. I've
obviously
done okay, but like I said, it's just like I know there's more. I know there's more.
But I think you just have to really understand that like you can't skip steps. If you want to save the environment, let's say you go ahead and get educated, right? You get your degree, you get your job in the field. Then you work at the company for whatever, 5 years, move your way up in the company, become a major player. Now you start lobbying in DC. You can get laws made and things passed. And now, wow, I'm actually affecting the environment. Now I got a job in the new president got elected. He wants to be part of the cabinet. I'm in charge of fucking whatever, you know what I mean? Now I'm talking at the UN. Now I'm doing a speech. Now I'm doing a TED talk. Like, you have to go step by step by step. And like, we just got pretty far. Like, I skipped some minor steps for the sake of podcast, right? But you have to go that way. You can't just immediately go, oh, then the whole environment is, it's too much, I give up. Because like, everything has a solution. You just keep acting like, nothing matters, who cares? It's like, that's okay to do that, but I don't think that's really true, like, at all.
I agree and
some things,
and disagree, because I with that optimistic pessimism in mind, like I really like. It's not that I necessarily try and be a dick with, well, it all means nothing, so it doesn't matter. I still think it matters. I still think this existence is like kind of like
you just think you're useless or what?
No,
I mean that's kind of what it feels like. I'm not gonna lie.
I just think a lot of I think a lot of like the ways that we've been doing things are just wrong, and I don't want to abide by the way that they've been done.
So don't. What's stopping you from not? There's so many trailblazers and people.
Is that just scary then? Is that just a scary thought?
You're just scared to do it. That's what it is. I mean, so many people have thought that, and so many people don't do what they want to do because they're scared of failing, and they're scared that they're not going to do it, right?
Yeah.
If you are determined to do something and you dedicate your life to it, you will do it, or at least do some of it, right? The real failure is the people who think about it their whole lives and never fucking do it.
Yeah.
They go, man, I want to start a band. And they're too scared to ask people to start the band. And then it never gets together. Now I'm too old. Like, can I really go back and get guitar lessons now? It's kind of too late.
Yeah.
And then you realize there's that guy. And then there's a guy at 60 who is like, fuck it. I've always wanted to do it. I'm going to do it. And starts a band. He has a shitty band, but he gets to play with his friends. And they do the local 4th of July concert.
And have lots of fun.
And have fun. And they play to 30 people and have a great time. And like, who did more? The guy who
The guy's doing it.
That's what I'm saying.
The guy's just doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's literally starting.
Yeah.
For example, this podcast. There's a ton of people who want to do podcasts, right?
Yeah.
And they're scared that people are going to view it and be like, oh, they're going to make fun of me, or it's going to be a waste of my time or whatever.
Yeah.
I would rather do it and not live with the regret.
Yeah. At least
then give it all. With this, right? This podcast could never take off ever.
Yeah.
And it will never be a regret.
Yeah.
So why not do it?
That's good to hear.
Of course.
Let's go, man.
What's
Let's
the
go.
The thing is, like, the whole point is doing something.
Yeah.
What would have been a bigger regret is never doing it. And one day when I'm 30 and all these people have massive podcasts and TV shows, and I go,
Man,
I could have done that.
Could have been there. Yeah.
But I didn't even try. I'm
Yeah.
a fucking pussy. Sorry.
Yeah.
But like, what? Like, come on. That's what I'm saying is you need to have action.
Yeah.
Because without the action, you're just as bad as someone who's not even thinking about it. What's
Yeah.
the difference between you and the guy who's not even thinking about it?
Mm.
In the physical results, there's no different. Now, you don't even have to do physical results. I guess the argument for the philosopher is they write about it and share that with the world so that action people, the doers, can take it, consume it, and then act, right?
Mm.
That's the idea.
Okay.
Let's think about the Communist Manifesto, right? He wasn't the leader of any nation, or who fucking wrote the bitch?
Karl Marx. Right?
Exactly. But then it was taken by Lenin as, to use in the Soviet Union. Yes, it didn't work out, obviously, but that's a perfect example. He wasn't the guy. He wasn't going to revolutionize the world by himself and become the new leader of the free world or whatever. But he planted the seed and passed the torch, and the next guy took it and improved on it and worked, right?
Yeah.
He didn't do any action except put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
But then he educated someone else who was like, I will do the action.
Yeah.
So it's okay if you don't want to do the action, but then you need to give it to someone to do the work, to make it happen, right? You're not everyone's meant to be the 360 all around, like one business and one person.
Yeah.
Right? You should have a group of people to work with who do these things for you and with you. Because maybe you're not adept at turning it into action and building the game plan and putting the steps in place, but you have the right ideas and you have the passion for it, but you just need someone to like lay it out, which is something more so that I would do, which is how we got this started.
Yeah.
Right?
The layout, and that's the thing. Like, so I guess that's what it goes back to me feeling, I guess, sometimes like a piece of shit because I don't. Maybe it is, and I would want you to be as real with me as possible on this because like sometimes like the layout just seems impossible for me to grasp. You know what I mean? Like it seems. Is it not? Because like, and that's why like it's recommended that I get medicated for this stuff because then it makes the plan easier to grasp. But I also don't like that.
That's a separate thing.
Yeah.
I will say if you did get medicated, there will be downsides, but
also upsides.
that would solve that problem.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's like a big thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that that's the only solution. Like I said, you can have people with you who balance you out. When you put the two brains together, it's okay if you're all like this because the other person's here, right? So like, it doesn't mean you have to necessarily change your brain. It just means you have to work with other brains to find that right medium. I think it's just being scared and like you're thinking about all this stuff. Why don't you take the time to think, how do I actually do it? Everything seems hard.
Yeah.
Everything seems hard.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of the shit that we do is stuff that we're told isn't hard. It's from our perspective. So we grew up where it was, I don't want to say assumed, but known that we will go to college and graduate college. Would you say that's accurate?
Yes.
To me, I had that, but I also had as well that, well, your mom didn't do it, your dad didn't do it, your sister couldn't do it. Like, this is a hard thing to do. So my outlook on it was different a little bit. I still felt like it was something that, of course, I was going to do based on my friends in the school I went to and stuff like that. But going to college and graduating 4 years is a hard thing for a lot of fucking people. And to you, obviously, there was hard parts, but it wasn't that hard, right?
No.
There's hard. Some of these concepts you're thinking of are easier than that, probably.
Yeah.
But because your mentality was, oh, this is easy, this is what I'm supposed to do, I have to get it done, you just did it.
Yeah.
For the people who have the mentality that like, this is so hard, if you don't get it, don't worry, no one's going to get mad at you, no one else could do it, right? Like if no one in your family graduated from college and you can't do it, well, you're not worse than them, you're just like them. Because you need to set the bar for yourself, right? If you do find something you're passionate about, let's take the podcast, for example. Let's get
I felt super passionate about this.
Let's get meta, right?
Yeah.
If I hadn't done it with you, would have you have done it by yourself?
No, I don't think so.
Right? But why not?
That's why I thank you every day. Because like it helps. Why not? Because I would have doubted my ability to lay out an accurate plan, a plan that could actually make something real happen.
See, that's doubt. That's low self-esteem. that's
Yeah.
being scared, because there's zero reason why you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
If the podcaster of all podcasters is Joe Rogan,
Yeah.
who is a self-proclaimed monkey, even though he's obviously a really smart guy.
Yeah.
If he could figure it out, who was just a comedian and was like, let me make this pivot, let me try this, let me figure it
Yeah.
out, and took him 10 years to get the show looking better than a
Yeah.
webcam, why the fuck can't you, a college-educated guy, do it? If you're looking by the culture standards of smartness, you are smarter than him.
Well, no, and that's I don't like that. That's
I
something that
agree.
I hate. Like
I
that's
agree.
something that I get into analysis paralysis a lot. Is like, why the fuck does that have to define what like you can do in this world? And
That's my point.
It bothers me with kids too, man.
But that's my whole point. You're setting yourself to those same standards, the ones that you just complained about hating. You're telling yourself, oh, people think I'm dumb, people think I'm lazy, so I can't do it. You're putting those on yourself, and you just said how stupid they were. You're like, I hate that shit. But it's the same reason why you
But I
think
think
that way.
it all the time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because we
fuck,
are
dude.
conditioned, and we grew up, unfortunately, where teachers and peers said mean and hurtful things
Yeah.
to make you believe things about yourself. If someone tells you something about you,
Yeah.
you believe it, whether it's true or not, right?
Yeah.
And that's awful. That fucks up a lot of kids. It fucks up adults all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to just be confident in yourself and what you're doing. I'm acting here like I know the fucking secret. I don't either, but I know that's what it is, and it's something I work towards
Yeah.
as well. But that's what I'm saying. You just complained about all these standards of what success is and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
If you hate it so much, then why are you listening to it? It's because
Yeah.
it's ingrained into us. But
Yeah.
I could tell you right now, starting a podcast, it is work. There's some work, but it's really not that hard.
Yeah.
It's really not.
It's kind of fun.
It's fun.
A lot of fun.
And-
I've been having a lot of fun. I don't know if you.
For example, you asked me how I do the editing and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like, how'd you figure it out? I literally just Google search what I need to do,
Yeah.
and then it tells me, and then I
Yeah.
do it, and then I remember it. Sometimes I forget it, and I Google search it again. That's all it is. Like, how do you compress the audio? How do I compress the audio?
Yeah.
Okay, I do this, and I do this.
Yeah.
But I go step by
And that's the
step.
thing. I've always known it's super easy like that. It's just
Yeah.
when I start doing it, I guess the mundaneness sometimes.
It's tedious. It's
yeah.
work. It's work.
It's working through. It's working through tediousness.
You want to skip steps. You can't skip steps. I think
Yeah.
that's, I would say,
Is
your
that the
one.
root of ADD? Is that like
I
just
wouldn't
jumping,
say-
wanting to jump over steps? No, we're not doctors. I'm someone who deals with this, and I'm asking his
I
opinion.
mean, my whole family has ADD
Yeah.
except me.
yeah,
I wouldn't say that's like the case.
yeah,
I would say that's actually closer to laziness. Laziness is wanting to skip steps
Mm.
because it's easier to skip
Mhm.
steps. It's like, oh, I wish I could just do this right now. I wish I could just snap.
yeah.
Boom, it's done.
See, so sometimes it is. Sometimes I am a piece of shit. 'Cause sometimes I do think
Everyone
that way.
is lazy. It's the
Yeah.
7 deadly sins. It's sloth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's ingrained into everyone in some facet. But it's just forcing yourself to do it. And it's very tedious. Like,
Yeah,
right, I just said a couple of those things when editing. It literally starts with, what is the best editing software?
yeah,
What's the best free editing software? It's like step by step, that tiny. Then you get the software. How do I put audio in? Oh, my audio didn't work. What kind of file do I need?
you know,
Like, it's so
I think
tedious,
I
but it's what you have to do.
I think I did. These are all things that I've known, but I did get a revelation from you. So that makes okay. So you have to do it, but so it's kind of like a mix with me almost. It's that combination of doubt and laziness. It's almost like I know for sure I'm certainly lazy with things that I don't want to do, and definitely want to just like
Real quickly, though, that's standard. Everyone feels that way,
yeah,
I think. Everyone wishes that it could be done faster and quicker and easier. So
Yeah.
that's not like a weird thing.
yeah.
That's something everyone struggles with. So that's standard. That's okay. What's the other part?
And then the other part would be doubt. And self-doubt,
Thinking
and
you
a
can't
lot
do
and
it.
a lot of self-doubt. Yeah, so maybe
Yeah.
not. And maybe because I've been. I mean, again, have I done as much as you on terms of a lot of this stuff? No, but I think that
You could do it.
yeah, no, what I'm saying is like I found with this and sometimes with writing, like I don't want to skip the steps. I do want to put in the work, but then that's where the ADD comes into play, and then my thoughts just start running wild. So there are like
Sure.
3 kind of forces at play almost in my head constantly, I guess.
I see
Laziness,
that.
doubt, and rapid thoughts.
I would say maybe lack of interest in some things.
Okay.
Because like you said, this might not interest you, so you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I think this will help you. This will help me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't find editing audio or video very
Fun.
interesting.
Yeah, you don't, not
not.
at all. Yeah.
The end goal, putting out a production, is pleasurable. That's the dub, right? That's fuck yeah. We made a podcast, we put it out. Obviously, the process is not going to be fun.
Yeah.
So you have to keep that end goal in mind. It'll all be worth it. I edit, I get flustered, I give up, I take a break, I come back. But when I get it together, it's like, fuck yeah, that's like we just won the game, right?
Yeah.
If it's a competitive thing, it's like you're playing against the computer and then you fucking win. And you beat it and you go, fuck you, I conquered you.
Yeah.
I did it.
And my mom showed me a great article too that like kind of like affirmed that a lot of the things that I went through as a kid are just like normal for what they classify as ADD. But even you just said some of the way I describe it. So that's also where I wonder, like, do I even, like, not claiming I have it. I know ADD exists and I know you see it in your family. I know it's a thing, but do more people have it? It's a spectrum like everything. So is there a point of labeling it that way, or should we change certain things of how maybe early development happens that like...
A couple things with this. With learning disabilities, no expert, but literally every single member of my family has a learning disability. And that's exactly it. It's a spectrum.
Yeah.
The reason why you get labeled it is simply for the fact of diagnosis, so you can get medication and specific care for it, right?
Yeah.
For example, I got tested if I was dyslexic when I was a kid because my dad is, so is my brother. I just passed. Like barely, right? So they're like, oh, you're not dyslexic. You're fine. Go on. Be a regular kid. So that's my mindset. I didn't even get told that I was very close till I got older.
Yeah.
My brother, on the other hand, is very dyslexic.
Yeah.
And was told that. And so his life was built around that. If I had just put a couple wrong answers on the fucking test or whatever it is, I don't remember. I was pretty young. Then I would have had a whole different outlook on life.
Yeah.
For sure. So I think it's dangerous to label kids that young. I think it's important to get a good diagnosis for the parents so they understand how their kid learns and how to treat them like that. But it's not good to label a kid as you're in the B group, you're special, you go here. That's actually one thing I thought our school did pretty well. Because there could be someone who's on the spectrum of some sort, has a learning disability, and they get separated from the rest of the group. Like they're different and they need this. It's like, no, they can still do the same things just through different ways. So I do think the label probably had an effect on you. You for sure have ADD, like for sure. Like no question about it. When we were younger, I used to literally know the days you didn't take your meds or not. I could tell you.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll never forget just
pal.
like being in the car and just being like, yo, Matt, what'd you have for lunch? And you just like look out the window and you're like, man, that cloud is really sick. And I'm just like, all right, cool. The clouds are cool. We're talking about clouds now. Like, fuck it. Like, whatever. Like, and then I go, you take your meds today? Oh, fuck, you're right. I got to take them. You know what I mean? Like, that was standard practice. Dude. But, like, that's also not a bad... There's pros and cons to it.
Now my, like, tangent thoughts are, like, more, like, articulate.
You're not like that at all anymore. Like,
really?
Very rarely, I think. You do it sometimes, but not more than anyone else who has fun ideas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's the thing. I'm just attracted to these wild thoughts of this, like, ability to just sit there, do nothing, and be like, damn, I exist, fool. Like, I think that's what Bukowski was getting at.
Yeah.
And, like, sometimes I do appreciate that aspect of life, too. That's almost like, you know, like, and again,
cool.
it's wild thinking. It's just like, I guess what he complained the most about in Factotum that also has just been getting to me lately is, like, anything that becomes a job, it's just like, I guess starts to define you in a certain way, and you got to find one that you love, I guess, right? To make it. No.
I don't believe that, but it's all what brings you happiness.
Yeah.
What brings you to your goal. And if that means working a job you hate, like I said, that's part of the steps. You can't skip steps. I don't like editing audio. I like dropping podcasts.
Yeah.
It's part of it. Editing doesn't define me. The end result defies me.
I see. Yeah.
It's a million things. It could be even stuff that's considered fun, right? Like a musician.
Yeah.
I was listening to a group earlier, Salem. They're famous for they hate performing.
Yeah.
But it's something they have to do to make money and get fans and survive. It's part of the overall process that they hate, but it's part of the thing they love. I don't believe that like that just defines everything. Now, if you have no other goals and your plan is just to work in and out till you're 60 and then that's it, then yeah, that's depressing, I would imagine.
Sometimes not, because they get paid well. Like, you know, if you work your way up in management
Sure.
and you like how the business operates and stuff like
so
that.
I'm saying if
like,
you hate it, sorry.
Yeah.
I should have qualify. If you hate that job
Yeah.
and you just are saying, fuck it, I'm going to just do that. Of course that's depressing.
Yeah.
I don't see you as someone who would ever get stuck in that cycle, and you kind of need to stop focusing on it because you're not going to get stuck on that. You already know that.
Yeah.
If you were someone who had worked at Dave & Buster's for 10 years already, had done nothing with their life, had no goals, I would say go check out his book. I would give you that rec. You're not that person.
Yeah.
You have never been. I don't think you ever will be. If you are, someone would remind you.
But what if we could collectively as a society just every now and then have periods of time where it's like, all right, let's just all sit back and think about what's going on. I mean, we kind of had that with COVID, but it was in a really scary time, so I think the thoughts really went fucking haywire.
Here's the thing. You got time to think, but a lot of people didn't get time to think during COVID.
Oh, that's true.
It's the very sad part about it's kind of what I said in the beginning is people don't have time to do this.
Yeah.
It's a luxury that we can sit and think about philosophy and what do I want to do with my life?
Yeah.
We're blessed to be able
it's
to
a
do
super big
that.
luxury, yeah.
I think that's part of, we talked about this on an earlier pod. I don't even know if we put that one out. I have a bit of me that's not like that. There's part of me that is very, you have to make money, you have to support your family, you have to do these things. And those goals, for better or worse, help me avoid sitting and thinking. There's other things to worry about, you know? I'll worry about that after I get these goals done.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about like, what will my life mean in the end? Because I still got to get money, you know, help my parents retire, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's more pressing. And that's not even, that's kind of a pressure I put on myself a little bit mixed with from my family. But other people, it's more pressing that where it's like, I got to eat today.
Yeah.
I can't think about what I'm meant to be on this earth. I have 2 kids and a dad who left, you know? So it is great that we can think about these things. And I'm not saying don't.
Just don't get too caught up in it.
Yeah. I think it helps you have some perspective when you go like, it's not all about that. There's no, if you want to go with the whole nothing matters, sure. There's no meaning to life. So why don't you just make it as best as possible and do
that's
what you
usually
like?
so that's you I do hold that belief. That's why I liked Bukowski's optimistic pessimism, because I'm always like,
I like
well,
that too.
if the end result doesn't matter, I can make this experience for myself and hopefully other people along the way as dope as possible.
That's kind of how I, in the first episode, my take on death is similar to that.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like,
that's interesting.
If you can't control it, then it's all the same. If nothing matters, everything matters. Or either or.
And I just applied it to a take on life.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the whole thing is that like, if he just told you nothing matters, why the fuck are you still thinking about it? Like, nothing matters. Move on.
That's probably maybe more what he was getting at.
I think part of the wormhole of philosophy,
along his journey, maybe it took him a long time to get there.
True. But I think that's part of the wormhole of philosophy is that you get sucked in like this, and the people who write philosophy and stuff get paid for it. Is that,
and I think it does have some practical application at certain points.
Of course. I think it's taking it, internalizing it, using it for something, but not dwelling on it too much. The fact that you just keep going, it's like, but fuck, nothing matters. It's like, yes, nothing matters. Okay, what does that mean? What does that mean what I got to do? So let's go with that theory, because I kind of feel like that too. I do think it's important. You can have an impact on the world and stuff like that is cool.
Yeah.
But I'm also a big believer that you should just like enjoy your own life and make those around it as best as possible.
And not define yourself by any standards other than your own.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like a pretty, I feel like a common sentiment now. Unfortunately, it's not shown that way in kids growing up, but it's up to you what you want your life to be. There's people who we might think, man, that guy had a shitty life, but maybe he thought he had the best life. And so fuck us, dude. Who cares? And there might be a guy who we think had the sickest life. Man, that guy was a rock star. He had all this money and he's miserable.
Yeah.
So it's very clear that if nothing matters like that, it's just internal, right? So whatever matters to you, whatever makes you happy, do that, right? If you truly, those are your only goals, right? For me, I will get to that after I do whatever. And then I can get to, I'll just do the things that make me happy and fuck everything else, right?
Yeah.
But within that, it doesn't mean you can skip steps that are not so happy. Maybe you have to work the job you don't like. Maybe you have to do this part of the business that you hate, right? No one lives and does only things they love 24/7. Very rare. And if they do, it's because their parents are rich.
True.
Just plain and simple.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
you have to have that balance, I think.
Yeah.
It's obviously super tough, but I would just say don't dwell on it that much.
Okay.
It's important to think of, obviously.
Yeah. No, and I just like I didn't want to get into this rabbit hole. I'll just kind of like close with it. I think also what comes to mind always, I'm always like kind of questioning systems too, just being like, you know, like why the fuck do we do it this way? Like I think that's what I started with. Like,
Yeah.
you ever sit back and just think like, why? Like that happens to me just so much. Like,
Give me one. I'm down to go down this a little bit. I don't know what you mean.
do it very briefly. We'll do it very briefly.
No,
like,
it's fine.
let's say you want to make changes in like the education system.
Sure.
Right. There are so many like problem areas in terms of like barriers, because bad things have happened. I'm not saying that there's no reason that they're here, but like just certain things, like let's say you have a certain group of like kids failing out, right? Like I think it should just be like, I'm fairly certain from personal experience that in most schools around the country, there's no funding for people to specifically just like focus on them and just help them through life in school, right? Like just like do that.
I need more specific. What kind of kids are you talking about?
One's probably at risk of like
At risk use, maybe
failing out, maybe not like, you know, having high self-esteem like me because they're put in the school system, right? So maybe like a kid like me who was maybe put in the school system, and then of course maybe has things on top of it like that I didn't personally
Sure,
have,
bad home
like
life,
et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And
Bullying,
just
whatever.
continue to like care less and think that they're,
Okay.
you know, get into these like states of mind where it's like, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I can't do anything like that.
You want funding for those kids to get more specific treatment to help them get
Yeah,
through,
instead of just
through
like
other
being
means.
like, well, I don't know
Good luck.
what's going on with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
That seems pretty pointed, pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
What's the issue with that?
I don't know. I guess it's just maybe like a lack of funding to have it be a fully.
No. What's the issue with you fixing it? Why can't you fix that?
Oh, again, I feel like because there would be so many things to address, I guess,
So
that I would
you're
probably need to look
scared.
into more.
So you're scared you couldn't do it, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Why don't you think you can't do it? You can literally do anything.
Because I wasn't apt for the school environment. How am I going to navigate like the nuances of
That's
the
the reason
educational
you're
field?
perfect for it. To me,
Yeah.
you know exactly what's wrong. You lived it.
Yeah.
Who else would be better to fix the problem than the person who went through the problem
Yeah.
and personally was affected by it? I would have a harder time fixing it
Yeah.
because school was not that way for me.
Yeah.
So how would I know how to fix it?
Yeah.
You have the fucking blueprint. I just think it all comes back to the mind. You have to hold the mindset, for better or worse, that you can do anything you want to. And I know that's very hard to think, but people have this thought that like some people are just like born special and they can do this
Yeah,
and
you
meant to
can-
do this and I can do
yeah.
this. I don't really subscribe to that idea,
Yeah.
though I actually think it's kind of true. It doesn't really make sense, but it helps me process. I think there are special people. Only Elon Musk could have been Elon Musk, right?
Yeah.
And only, I don't know.
Serena Williams could be Serena Williams.
Sure.
Only Miles Davis could have been Miles Davis.
I don't even know with those. Because the thing is, like, you would never know unless you tried. And there's probably, for example, like, let's say LeBron James, right?
Yeah.
People are like, well, you weren't born with those genetics. You're not 6'8", huge, ripped, right? But there's he's not the only person in the world like that.
Yeah.
And there's definitely people like him who fell through the cracks, kind of like you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's not just the one thing you're born with this gift. It's everything. And if you look at the end of it, Serena Williams, what percentage of her success is because she was born with it?
Yeah.
It's very minimal, realistically. It gives her that little bit of edge over the rest of the competition. But the difference from her and the 20th ranked tennis player is probably just that little bit. And the 20th ranked tennis player is having a great time being that person.
So it's more just like you have to hone in on what exactly it is you want to see changed and then actually take the steps to do it and not worry about every other problem at the same time.
It's not worrying about every other problem at the same time. You can, I think worrying for the most part without action is useless.
I guess worrying was the wrong word there. Yeah. Well, I guess it does lead to worry with me often.
Yes,
Sometimes.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not worrying about that. It's worrying about the problem you can action at hand. So if you want to fix school, that's your broad thing.
Yeah.
It's step by step. And it's useless to think about fix school. You can keep it in the back
You
of your
said the
head.
same thing with government too. Like if
Sure.
you want to fix government, you could do it. You got to work a campaign, run for
That's what I'm
mayor, run
saying.
for governor, run for
People think they just can't do things.
Yeah.
And you can literally, and we live in America where it is harder for some people than others, of course,
But you can do anything
you can pretty
want.
much do anything you want. It's hard. It's very hard for some people. And you and I are in positions where it's not that hard for us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, white dudes with a decent upbringing, you can pretty much do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You could like do everything. I saw a really funny comedy bit and I was like, oh, you should steal this. It's a joke. We don't like stealing bits. She walks up and she's like, I tell people when I'm a comedian and someone told me that I was brave for being a female comic. And it's like, no, I think it was more brave dropping out of college. You know, white girl, like upper class family dropping out of college, like worst case, like I would still be just as rich as I am now. Oh my God. Like, because there's literally no risk for her, right?
Yeah.
And obviously we're not that.
Yeah.
And we're not at the bottom either.
Yeah.
Like you can literally do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You could just decide right now, I want to do this and just do
And people
it.
do it every day. And that's what I'm
day.
saying. It's like, yeah.
But even more people don't. And
Really?
which would you rather be? How many people you
Yeah.
think never got to live their dreams?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's because, hey, I had a kid young, like, you know, and then they have to sacrifice their dreams.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Maybe they wanted this. It doesn't mean they have to give up those dreams and maybe they have new dreams. Your priorities and everything changed now and you have to give up. Now you can't, you could still do everything. I think you could still have a kid young and still do it all if you really wanted to. You see those scenarios and there's no difference between you and that person. Like there's literally no difference. If you want to become the CEO of a big business, you could do it.
Mhm.
There's no reason why you couldn't. And I think because of how you came up, you have this mentality that that's not the case.
Yeah.
That I can't do anything. I can only do these things because I'm bad at these things. It's like, no. Like you can literally do whatever the fuck you want. A great one, my mom is really good about it because my brother's dyslexic. And she's like, you know, some of the greatest inventors in history, like Thomas Edison was like dyslexic, I think. It's like, yeah, that's what made him special. Like the weird, the off-brand things, the things that make it harder for you to go through school and make you special or different is actually what makes you succeed. People who focus in on their differences have the most success because that's what makes you stand out. You don't have to do that. You don't have to stand in on those things, but it's more of a blessing than anything. You might be worse at certain things, but that means you can do better at these things. It doesn't mean you can't do the bad things as well.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless if you believe it or not, you need to keep the mindset of like, I can do anything I want. Nothing is out of your realm. And especially because of where we live and who we are and what we look like and, you know, our family and everything, it's very true that you can literally do anything you want. So you want to do the school one.
That was the first example that came out the top of my head. I'm sure if I actually wanted to hone in on like a big issue that like maybe I could impact like a large group of people on a certain way, I would either do education abroad. I would want to focus on basic education in like either India, because that's a place that like I've been to and seen.
Sure.
Or environmental issues. Those two are like my two big things.
So literally what you just have to do is pick one and reverse engineer it, and you just go back.
And maybe reforming education in the United States too.
Sure. You can do all those things.
Yeah.
You just have to go step by step.
Step by step.
I mean, to me personally, I have a lot of goals like that as well. But I know the way I would go about it. And my first step is make money. And then I can put that money towards what I want to do. Right? It's an easier way to process it for me, where it goes right now, just make money. And then I edit it because I go, actually, one of my goals right now would be to start a podcast separate of making money. If I can do both at the same time, great. If not, not a problem either. I'll just do the podcast as well. And I add things to my plate. Some people, podcasting is their full-time job. I'm okay with having a full-time job and still doing this.
Yeah.
But some people be like, oh, that's too hard, or I can't do it, or like, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I just think I know it kind of sounds mean, but I just think it's being scared and it's not their fault either. It's because of how they were raised and what people have been told that you can't do this. You're not good enough, you know? And I was like that for a very long time as well, until I finally got good at something and realized like, oh, I can do this. You know, I think it takes one thing for someone to really build confidence in that they had no chance of doing, and then they did it, and then they go, okay, like I can do it.
See, and people like me, this is why I called this tonight. People like me sometimes need, and you're not the first person to tell me these things in my life, but sometimes I just need that like person saying it to me, because like I don't know,
because
man.
you didn't have that all the time before.
Yeah,
of course.
And my thoughts don't always go there. Like my thoughts go elsewhere. It's crazy how the brain works, man. And it's just like it's different. And yeah, I guess you just need to hear the outside perspective. And my main takeaway, I think, what I've gotten to, I love having these talks with you, man. I know we like doing funny episodes too and stuff like that, but I do love having these talks because I always take something that like I already knew and then apply it in a different way. So like tonight for me, that was when I first saw the Twilight Zone episode, Eye of the Beholder. The whole thing is beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's a common phrase,
Explain
I think.
it for the viewer.
Basically, there's what?
What? Go ahead.
Basically, I think the phrase beauty is in the eye of the beholder, especially in the Twilight Zone episode, was actually talking about physical beauty, right?
Sure.
I'm pretty sure that's always what the phrase is applied to. But what I took from that tonight is that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and that applies very much so to life. And the beauty of one's life is in the eye of the one living.
Yes, especially if you're in this whole belief of like nothing matters, right? Some people live for God.
Yeah.
So maybe there's
which works for them if it works.
If it works for you, but that means there's a certain standards and goals that God has given you that you need to meet. I need to not sin. I need to not do this.
Yeah.
To be successful in life, right?
Yeah.
We're just creating our own, and that's just as fine as well, I think. And some people need more guidelines, and some people need the 10 Commandments to guide them. And I think they do take you a certain amount of the way, but once you kind of get over that, you can create your own goals and set the things that will make you personally happy. And that's the next level to unlock. But I think the biggest thing is just like, it's that.
Yeah.
And then just knowing that you can do it. And I would say if there is our rec for this episode for this week, I think it would be confident in yourself as much as you can be. It's easier said than done, but that you truly can do anything you want. And if you try it, you will soon find that that's true. Could be small, could be big. But if there's one thing that's been plaguing you forever that you've wanted to do, we've thought about doing this podcast for years, really. And it took us this long to fucking do it. And I would never say that I regret it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would have regretted it if we never done it. Imagine we never did this, and 20 years later when we get old,
we'd be like, fuck.
Right? We'd be pissed. And I feel that way that we didn't do it 3 years ago.
I do too. I mean? Yeah, I do too.
And it's better late than never, for sure. And so I would say that's the big thing. If you have one thing, just start. I don't care if it's good. Our video sucks right now, right?
Yeah. Thanks for sticking with us. All you early listeners, you guys are great.
Yeah. And maybe we'll blow the fuck up, maybe we won't, but it doesn't matter because we fucking did it.
And honestly, like,
we proved
I just
that
gained
we
something
can do it.
from this tonight too.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many pluses along the way too.
That's what I'm saying. There's only lessons to be gained from trying something and doing something.
Yeah.
And if nothing comes from it, it will literally just be confidence that like, hey, we picked a random fucking thing that we had zero experience in, no previous advantage. We weren't born podcasters, that we may be career podcasters.
We're for sure going to be some career podcasters, bro.
But that's what I'm saying. We just picked something and we put our mind to it and we did it.
Yeah.
And we're not done. We're still doing it. But that process will continue to be rewarding and will only build confidence, and it will help you in other aspects of your life. So take one thing you've always wanted to do, give it a try, and just start. I don't care if it sucks. Just start. And slowly you'll get there. If you have the time to. If you don't, keep grinding,
maybe
keep working,
make some time,
and then hopefully make some time if you can.
Try it,
especially if you're young. The earlier the better. But if you are old, don't think it's over. Don't think it's not possible.
Never
is. Great one is the guy from KFC, Colonel Sanders, was literally owned a fucking 3-bed B&B till he was like 65, and then one day someone like had his wife's chicken. Oh, it was pretty good, and he's like, oh, I'll make a restaurant. Boom. Biggest chain in the world. People eating KFC and Christmas in China.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's never too late. Just do it. Nike. Fuck Nike.
And my culture wreck of the week is, see what you think of Factotum, Charles Bukowski. See what you think. I want to see if any other like thoughts like mine get sparked from it. I'm not saying take it as gospel, but
I haven't read the book. Normally we try to co-sign each other's recs. I'm not going to co-sign this rec actually.
Because
it
leads to thoughts like the ones I was having today.
I think it's important to read if you're in the right space for it, but it can lead to some useless thinking or some bad thoughts. I actually don't think it's positive for everyone to read.
True.
To be honest, that's my take. Not saying
I still recommend it.
It would help a lot of people, but it could also hurt a lot of people, to be honest.
Yeah.
So just know what you're getting into. And if you are going to go down the philosophy rabbit hole, please get every aspect. Don't read one book and be like, this is how I live my life now. It's literally just one random guy telling you how to live your life, and only you know how to do that. So I'd say read a lot, pick the best stuff, whatever.
Wise words from a wise man, as always.
Fuck philosophy.
And with that, man, peace.